From the dangerous Drew Dober expecting an all-out brawl to the winner of the rematch possibly getting a shot at the UFC lightweight title, here's the pros predicting Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. Despite not picking a favorite, Dober thinks the thrilling rematch could go either way. Believe it or not, a lot of fans are actually sleeping on this matchup, because it's not often you get to see two superior strikers battle it out inside the octagon. Both of them are absolute brawlers who love stepping in the line of fire, always in search of that perfect knockout blow. And considering how brutal their first fight was, I can't wait to see how things play out when they meet for a second time at UFC 291. Lightweight fighter Drew Dober shared his thoughts on the matchup, and surprisingly, the 34-year-old was super confused and had a hard time picking his favorite. Since both of these guys are so good with their hands, Dober thinks it's going to be an extremely close battle. But yeah, he seriously struggled with picking a favorite, and honestly, it makes sense. Plus, Dustin and Gaethje have both come a long way from their last meeting inside the octagon. And if you ask me, I think they've evolved significantly, adding a lot more depth to their game. So at the end of the day, Dober believes it's going to come down to heart and determination. And that's mainly because they're both equally experienced and skilled in the fight game. Other fighters don't exactly agree with Dober, which makes things harder. Drew knows it's going to be a hell of a fight, with high expectations of the action turning into an absolute slugfest. But unlike him, the scary Beneil Dariush has made his prediction clear, saying Justin Gaethje will come out on top, surprising the Diamond with his hunger. Along with being one of the deadliest fighters in the division, Benny also happens to understand the fight game on a different level. And while sharing his prediction about the Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier rematch, the Iranian-American didn't beat around the bush and straight away sided with the highlight to come out victorious. It's not like Beneil doesn't consider Dustin a threat, though. He knows exactly how dangerous the Diamond can be. And considering how he's already beaten Gaethje once, it's not going to be a one-sided or easy fight by any means. It might even be more intense than last time, with both men going the distance and putting on a spectacular show for the fans. But just why has Benny sided with the highlight if he knows Dustin is so dangerous? Remember how I was telling you this fight is more about heart and determination? Well, Dariush believes Justin is hungrier than Poirier, and that's going to give him a mental edge in the matchup. Plus, Beneil called Gaethje one of the scariest fighters in the entire division, and that's because of the power he packs in his striking. The guy hits like a truck. I mean, even the Eagle Khabib Nurmagomedov said this. He said Justin was hands down one of the toughest and strongest opponents he ever fought. And considering how he's evolved so much as a fighter, the Diamond will have a seriously difficult time matching the energy, and possibly end up losing the mental game before collapsing inside the cage. Speaking of fighters siding with the highlight, Brian Ortega is all Team Justin and expects him to win with ease. Number 2 ranked featherweight, Brian Ortega, is a huge fan of Justin. When asked about the rematch at UFC 291, Ortega mentioned how he's inspired by Gaethje because no matter what the odds, the guy shows up to fight. As a true fan of the game, watching him fight is an absolute delight because honestly, no one does it better than him. I mean, his nose could be running with blood, or he could have a purple eye, and even then, the guy just refuses to give up, and Ortega loves that about him. He admires how dedicated Gaethje is to his craft, and in a high-profile matchup against someone like the Diamond, dedication and commitment play a massive role. But it's not just that. Ortega also feels Justin is the better fighter stylistically, and that's because he's evolved past Poirier. It's a bit controversial, because that's like saying he's hit his peak, but when you think about it, Dustin has put on tons of solid performances in the past couple of years. And Gaethje, well, let's just say his victories have been dominant, with the most brutal one against UFC legend Tony Ferguson. So, yeah, I understand what Ortega is trying to say here, and if you ask me, he's making sense as well. Both of them are quite similar in terms of skills and fighting styles, but considering their past performances, the highlight has definitely done more damage, and looks to be in a better rhythm than Dustin. Former UFC champ Eddie Alvarez has the same but different opinion. Let's unpack that. Well, like Ortega and Benny, Eddie also thinks Justin will win the fight at UFC 291, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's also the better fighter. In a side-by-side comparison, Alvarez believes the Diamond is the better fighter, since he's not only more skilled than his opponent, but also has a lot more experience. And if all that is true, why in the world has Eddie sided with Gaethje to come out victorious? Because when it comes to desire and will, Justin is at a stage in his career where he's much hungrier and would do anything for another, and possibly even his last shot at greatness. Besides, Alvarez would know a thing or two about will and desire, cause he himself has had to climb the ranks, while the entire world counted him out. And the fact that every fighter is siding with him because they believe he has heart shows you that the highlight is a fighter who never gives up. And this prediction also sort of cancels out everyone saying Poirier will win because he's better. I mean, yeah, sure, you could argue he's better, but there's a reason why all these top-ranked fighters are not picking him. And that's probably because he's no longer willing to take the same risks as he was before. Gaethje, on the other hand, is hungry for gold and could put himself through the toughest of situations to get it. On the other hand, UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev believes Gaethje has nothing over the diamond. This has to be the most harsh prediction of all. While talking to UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier, the lightweight king slammed everyone supporting Gaethje by asking one simple question. What does the highlight even have over him? He's not more skilled. He doesn't have more experience. Heck, he has nothing over him. Then why is everyone siding with him? Plus, because the fight is expected to be a bloody brawl, Makhachev already knows how things will play out since both men are strikers. See, Gaethje will start off by trying to throw some slick hooks, while Poirier attempts to land a quick jab. But because it'll all come down to their striking prowess, the Diamond is a better boxer, and that's why he'll cruise to a victory with no issue whatsoever. I mean, if you ask me, it's actually a super technical prediction based on logic. But what Islam fails to realize is just how far the highlight has come as a fighter. Was Dustin a better boxer 2 years ago? Yep, but what about now? Honestly, the way Gaethje has been managing himself inside the cage is just mind-blowing. And while I do think Islam has added a lot of perspective to this fight by being real, but what he failed to realize is Gaethje's desire to win. And in case he needs some reminding of how far that goes in the fight game, he should re-watch his fight against the great Alexander Volkanovski. But what good is the BMF title? Isn't it the lightweight belt they should be after? Well, believe it or not, the winner of this fight will have a strong chance at competing for the title. Of course, it won't be as simple as it sounds, but a win would definitely put them ahead. See, once either one of them has a victory, they can be matched against, let's say, Charles Oliveira. And because Do Bronx is the #1 title contender in the division, a win over him automatically puts anyone ahead in line for a shot at the title. But even if it doesn't play out that way, if Charles fights Islam first, and the winner from UFC 291 faces the loser, a title fight could also be in the books in that scenario. So, from the dangerous Drew Dober expecting an all-out brawl, to the winner of the rematch possibly getting a shot at the UFC lightweight title, here's the pros predicting Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier.